My grandmother was mentally ill, and so we grew up with her at least 6 months of the year for most of my childhood. She was undiagnosed and untreated with mental illness. And she was the one that practiced Santeria in our home. So, and I don't want anyone to take this as a blanket statement about Cuban heritage or anything like that. This was my family and how they were. But in Cuba, my understanding is that, there were slaves that were brought to work the plantations when the plantation owners came from Spain and from France, from Europe, and they established themselves on the island. They brought in slaves. And so they tried they forced them into Catholicism. And so they had to go to church. And so in order to conserve their belief system, which was based in, their gods, they took the same saints of the Catholic faith and they assigned them to their gods. So what would be Saint Lazarus to me in the Catholic faith, to them was a voodoo god in their faith. So it's a blending of the Catholic and the African beliefs. I guess that's the best explanation that I can give. So as a child growing up in our home, we had altars because in our family, everyone had patron saints. So my father had the Virgin Mary on an altar, and he offered her, a lot of times it was just meringue, or they would put, some alcohol or whatever it was. And then my mother had St. Lazarus, and so she would light a cigar to him on his birthday and blow smoke, and, there were things on his altar. But my grandmother would use the same St. Lazarus that was on my mother's altar. I would find him in the closet turned upside down, and she would have offerings to him where she was doing, her, practicing her faith and putting curses upon us. And my mother was terrified. So I came to understand that even though they had these saints, and my dad had the Virgin and my mom believed in Jesus, that none of them were big enough to fight the enemy.
Wow.
So the enemy reigned in our home. That was what I believed